migration agent with us today, Namo Kim. You can start from introducing yourself and we can start the session.
Okay. Hello everyone, how are you? My name is Namo Kim and then I'm the migration agent that I'm working at the Seoul Edu and Migration. So today, as the team mentioned, that we're gonna discuss about the TRA skill assessment and then for the visa options for the Cookery, Carpentry, and then Automotive students. So basically, I'm not going to talk about much about the course, but I'm assume that the students complete the 2 years study in Australia, and then what's the next step? So basically, today we will talk about the after completion of study, what you have to do to get the permanent residency in Australia. Okay. So if you see the second page that I'm talking about the TRA vocational course, the TRA skill assessment. But before I explain about the exact meaning of the importance meaning of the TRA and skill assessment, I basically tell you why the skill assessment is required. So the Australian government providing the permanent resident visa, and then they actually need the people with skills, specific skills. However, the government cannot find whether these students really have that knowledge and skill in nominated occupation. So that's why they actually giving their job to the another authority to check applicant skill and knowledge. So in this process, we call skills assessment. So for the IT occupation, that ACS, Australia Computer Society, is the skill assessment authority. For the engineering occupation, that Engineers Australia is a skill assessment authority, which means for the engineering occupation, if you want to get qualified engineer for the migration purpose, you must check with Engineers Australia and then must pass the skill assessment through the EA, Engineers Australia. But the cookery, today's occupation will be the chef and then mechanic and then carpenter. So those vocational courses, the vocational occupation, the skill assessment authority is the Trade Recognition Australia. We call the TRA. So TRA basically check whether you have enough skill and knowledge to apply the any temporary or permanent visa in Australia. So today we will talk very detailedly about the process in TRA skill assessment. Before I move on to the detailed information about the TRA, I just summarized some visa options. So if you see our PowerPoint, then you can find 4 different visa. Subclass 189, subclass 190, subclass 491, and subclass 186. The reason why I show this visa option is those all visas required skill assessment, which means without passing the skill assessment, you cannot even apply for those visas. So that's why you should carefully understand the importance of the skill assess, and then you have to plan well to apply the permanent visa. So a lot of students come to me a bit late. They just come and ask me about I want to apply the skilled visa. But when I check with them, their visa is just left around 8 months. But they haven't completed the skill assessment. So I cannot ask them to start skill assessment because normally TRA skill assessment or some skill assessment takes at least 1 year. Then basically they already lose the opportunity to apply the skilled visa because they cannot pass the skill assessment within their current graduation visa, something like this. So before you get into the graduation visa or during your study, you must clearly understand how to get the skill assessment and what is your future visa. So if you're planning to apply a certain visa, you must understand their requirement and you must check whether that visa required you to have the valid skill assessment outcome or not. So that's why those visas, 189, 190, 491, 186, or even for the Dharma 1494, they all require the certain skill assessment. So that's why I'm telling you the skill understanding about skill assessment is very important. Okay, let's talk about the TRA job ready program first. So today we basically talk about the chef, mechanic, and carpenter, but I'm just to show you the welding as well. So like all the vocational course, mostly they are taking the skill assessment through the TRA. And then in the TRA, there are many different type of the skill assessment. But basically today, we will talk more about the job ready program, because I believe you are studying now or about to study or just about to complete your course, then most of you guys require to take job ready program to get the skill assessment. So job ready program, they have 4 different steps. As you can see on my PPT, then you can see the step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4. For step 1, we call the provisional skill assessment. So we simply call the PSA. But this step 1 is very important that you must complete this PSA to get visa grant for the graduation visa. So basically, if you currently studying any of the vocational field, like a cookery course and an automotive course and a carpentry course, once you complete the course, you must take a provisional skill assessment first to apply the graduation visa. So step 1 is simply not for the PR, but for the graduation visa application. And then step 2, so let's say if you complete the first stage of the job ready program, which is a PSA, then you can move on to the step 2. So we call the job ready employment, the JRE. So to apply the JRE, you must get employment. You must be employed as a nominated occupation. So let's say if you want to apply the for the visa as a chef, for example, then you must employed as a chef to start JRE process. So maybe a lot of students ask about the first step, provisional skill assessment. No, you don't necessarily to work as a chef to apply the PSA. You can work as a cook. You can work as a like a similar like a related occupation. Still okay. But from the step 2, you must employed as a closely related with occupation, which is chef for cookery students. And then you have to complete a certain hour. Then you can move on to the step 3. And for the step 3, TRA. The officer will visit your workplace. But currently, because of the corona situation, the TRA officer not gonna visit your the workplace, but they will have the Zoom interview with your supervisor and then applicants. So they will check whether you have enough skill and knowledge to pass the skill assess. So step 2, step 3. The important thing is entire 2 and 3 stage that you must work as at least 1 year, 12 months, and then you must complete around 1,800 hours. So exactly 1,725 hours. So a lot of the students ask me, oh, if I complete 1,725 hours within 10 months, can I pass everything earlier? No. By the calendar months, you must complete at least 12 months, and you must also meet the working hour requirement, which is 1,725 hours. So once you meet the 2 requirement, which is 1,725 hours and then 12 months, and you pass the interview, then you move to the stage 4, which is JRFA, Job Ready Final Assessment. So for this stage, you don't need to worry too much because you already passed everything. But in that stage, you must provide all the pay evidence. Then they will check again. Then they will give you the final outcome. So when you complete this Job Ready program from stage 1 to 4, then finally you qualified. For example, if we are talking about the cookery student, yeah, finally you qualified as a professional chef for the migration purpose. So very important. For your workplace, even though you don't pass this one, you can still work as a chef. They don't care. But I'm talking about the migration purpose. So if you want to apply the certain visa as a chef, you must complete this job ready program. So again, I give you the example. So students come to me and then their graduation visa finish December, but he realized he want to apply the skilled visa, but he hasn't started JRE. He just got a graduation visa with the PSA. Then can he start the process now? No, because he don't have any valid visa at least 12 months. So that's why he cannot apply the job ready program. So that's why you must understand the importance of the JRP, the job ready program, and you must plan earlier to start the skill assessment. Okay, let's give a little bit detail about the each stage. First stage, again, for the PSA, provisional skill assessment. Again, this provisional skill assessment is only for the graduation visa purpose. It's not about the permanent visa purpose. But anyway, if you can't pass the PSA, you cannot move on to the stage 2. So this is anyway part of the job ready program. So this first stage PSA program requires you to provide the relevant qualification for example, if you are the chef, then certificate 4 in commercial cookery is the relevant qualification. And then they also see whether you have a certain experience, at least 360 hours. So these 360 hours, you don't necessarily work as a chef again, but you must prove anyway you work similar skill level and then cook, that's okay. But anyway, you have to prove 360-hour paid employment or vocational placement. So most of the school organize your vocational placement as a part of the course, but you must check whether your school organized vocational placement for around 360 hours or not. Some school, they don't care about the hours. So that's why even they complete the vocational placement, but they still short of the hours. So that's why they have to use paid employment. But I recommend you do not mix up vocational placement and employment, paid employment. So if you work in the restaurant, just use the paid employment experience. That might be easier. And stage 2, job-led employment. From this stage, it is very important. You must be hired by your employer as a nominated occupation. So let's make an example with the mechanic. So yeah, from this stage 2, you must have the contract, not necessarily contract, but anyway, you get paid from your employer as a mechanic. So when you start, then you have to keep providing your skill report, and you also have to provide your pay slip to prove your work. In that skill report, your employer or your supervisor have to check whether you taking required skill or you can handle the required tools. So those checklists we have to update to the TRA, and then TRA officer on the 3rd stage, they will come and visit your the workplace and they really see whether you taking this responsibility or not. And from the stage 2 until stage 3, to complete the 2 and 3, you must complete the 1,725 hours, but still require you to have the 12 calendar month as well. But it is very important to start the JRE program. You must prove you have at least 12 months valid visa, and also that visa allow you to work full time. So for example, my students have applied the student visa. No, they cannot start the JRE because student visa cannot give you full-time working right. And then do not miss out when you apply the JRE, you can also claim the previous employment as well. Again, that you have to complete the 12 calendar months, right? But before you apply the JRE, if you already work with your employer at the nominated occupation for certain months, you can claim previous experience at least 3 months, the maximum 3 months. Means for the 9 months, if you're taking for the JRP program, you can complete the second and third stage. So a lot of people miss this 3 months claim, then you must check it out whether you can apply the 3 months claim or not. If you apply, it might be really good because you can reduce the duration of the JRP program. And then stage 3, we call the job-ready workplace assessment. So there are not exact like a borderline for stage 2 and stage 3. From the stage 2, you continue to work. And in the certain time, the TRA officer will ask you to apply the stage 3. And then once you apply the stage 3, then some students get the contact very late. So in around the 10 months, they get the contact from the TRA and ask students to apply the stage 3. And then once they apply the stage 3, TRA organized the vocational placement assessor to the students. So that's why the assessor will visit your restaurant or your workplace, and they will check your, how can I say that, skill and knowledge.
So students have to be asked to submit documents before they come and check.
Yeah. So to complete the stage 2, the TRA will require the students to present skilled progress report. So based on the skilled progress report, they decide, oh, you can go to the stage 3. So once we apply the stage 3, also the assessor will visit the workplace and check, oh, you can use this too, and oh, you have this knowledge. And then on the PPT, it's mentioned that they will basically check your role in your workplace, and then you have a quite competent knowledge about the terminology in your industry, and you have a fluent English skill to taking all the responsibility as a chef or mechanic. Also, you are aware about any like a regulation and then standard, and you have any skills for the solving the problem. And yeah, those things they will check, and they also have a short chat with your supervisor as well. So based on those, the interview, they will conclude whether you can pass the stage 3 or not. So, but so far I have more than 100 cases for the JRP program, but I don't have any case that refused on the stage 3. Means that during all the process, students really learn a lot, and then they can meet the requirement for the skill assessment. So basically, they can pass the skill assessment. So after that, stage 4, if we pay the stage 4 application, then they will ask you to provide all the evidence of the payslip. Then they will check again. Then they will finally provide the final outcome. So there are huge delay in the job ready program before, but now many things changed and everything become online. Then now, yeah, they are quite, how can I say, faster. Yeah, faster, and then there is not much delay at all.
So it's really important to pass one step at a time before going to the next one.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Just 1 second. So now the everything's all good.
Do we have any questions from students?
Okay. So I'll open another PPT to share some information. Just 1 second.
So if any students are watching and have any question about Cookery or Automotive and Carpentry, even if about course related or visa related, you can comment in the live.
That's right. Okay, now I can maybe move on to some visa part. But before I explain you about the specific visa subclass, then I can give you a little bit of an update how the current migration law is moving on. So since last year, I mean that since 2019, there are huge changes. Then government clearly show that they are more focused on the regional area. So they try to giving more benefit for the applicants who live and work in the regional area. So based on their big trend, government introduces many different things. The first one, obviously, they decreased the entire visa number. However, they allocate more quota for the regional visas. Also, they actually now simplify the meaning of the regional Australia. So before, there are many different definition of the regional area. So even me who work in the migration industry be confused. Oh, regional area for which visa. But now they simplify all the concept of the regional Australia. So now we have only one definition of the regional area. So they based on that simplified and then fixed regional area definition, they introduced the new skilled regional provisional visas. So we will talk later about these new visas. And then they also allocate more point for the students who complete their study or work and live in regional area. Also, recently they also introduced some new graduation visa. Then people who complete the graduation visa, then they can apply the additional graduation visa if they meet the certain requirement in regional area. So if you're planning to study in Australia, then that's why I keep saying you must clearly understand about this big information first. Then you have to decide where you're gonna study, what you're gonna study, and after study, what I can do to get the visa. So without this understanding, that if you start first, then later on, it's a bit late to change the location, change the course, and then maybe sometimes on the graduation visa, even you missed skill assessment as well. So that's why you must get the professional consultation and get updated by yourself, also get some updated information from us. So anytime, if you have an inquiry about your study or visa, we are happy to provide the answer. So please contact our teams. Yeah, so the more detailed information about the regional visas. So 2019 March, the government released the new announcement about the regional area. And finally, 2019 November, they released the updated announcement about the regional area. So on the March, they announced that the regional area is the area except Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Gold Coast, and Perth. But on the November, they rectified their definition and they finally released the final announcement about the regional Australia. For the updated information, only 3 cities is not included in the regional area. So Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. Except the Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, all area is the regional area in the migration purpose. So maybe if you have visited the Perth and then maybe the Gold Coast, Newcastle, Wollongong, and Adelaide, you may not feel like it's a regional area, but for the migration purpose, those cities is still be a regional area. So if you now thinking to apply to any regional related visa, those cities except the Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, they are all applicable area to apply those visas. So here is the visa options. Okay. Let's say that once you complete your course and then you move to the graduation visa, and then you meet all the requirement, then later on, you have basically six different visa options. So to make it simple, I can divide that into the skilled visa option and employer sponsor visa options. So let's say for the skilled visa options, it basically talking about the skilled independent visa, which is subclass 189. Also skilled nominated visa, subclass 190 visa. And then skilled work listener visa, which is a new listener visa. And then currently the most effective visa and your target visa may be for the 491 skilled work listener visa. And then for the employer sponsor visa, there are always available for the ENS employer nomination sponsor visa, which is subclass 186 visa, and then TSS visa, which is temporary skilled shortage visa, subclass 482, and then new visa, new regional visa, skilled employer sponsor visa, which is subclass 494 visa. So from now on, I will explain a bit detail about each visas, then you can understand what kind of visa you can apply for later. So let's talk about the skilled visa first. Okay. Next. So this skilled visa, as I mentioned on previous PPT, then there are three different types of the skilled visa: 189, 190, 491. So I will simply mention about the subclass number, then you can understand which subclass belong to the which visa. But very important thing is that these three visas all require you to have the positive outcome of the skill assessment in your nominated occupation. Means if you missed out the skill assessment during the graduation visa, you even doesn't have any chance to prepare this visa or apply these visas. So very important, this skilled visa, you must have a skill assessment. So let's go for the 189 skilled independent visa first. Skilled independent visa is the permanent visa, and it is a point-based visa. But this skilled 189 visa, they don't care where you are and what you studied. They only look at your point. So even though you are in or outside of Australia, you are equally compete. However, realistically, that if you are in Australia and then you work and study in Australia, you definitely have higher point. So you will have a higher chance to get the invitation. But at the moment, 189 is not operating by the occupation, unfortunately. So anyway, not many people are studying and work as a certain occupation, but you still require a very high point to get the invitation. But it's meaningless that I'm saying that the invitation point at this day, because they don't invite at all. So now 95 point and 100 point, it's very hard. And then I really want to give you some like a positive comment on this visa, because it's gonna be higher competition and then more competition at all. So yeah, skilled independent visa is a permanent visa and then based on the point, but now very small quota and then too much competition, very strong competition. So it's not gonna be your target visa for permanent residency. And next one is 190. So 190 is operating through the point system as well. However, 190 is a bit different with the skilled independent visa, because 190 require you to have the state nomination. Very important, you to have the state nomination. Means each state in Australia or each state and territory have a different rule and different occupation for their own state nomination. So for example, in Queensland, they give the opportunity for example, chef for the 190. But in some state, for example, it's not true, but in Northern Territory maybe, they don't give the opportunity for the chef. Like this, each state has their own demand for the certain occupation, and based on that demand, they have their own occupation list. Also, state nomination requirement is all different based on the state. So you must understand which state will be the very attractive for your occupation. And then you also calculate your point well to meet the requirement, because state nomination, some state like Canberra, ACT, and New South Wales, so those states, they giving the invitation based on the point. So if you have a higher point, you can get a higher chance. But Queensland, they just but have giving you the deadline point, minimum point. If you above the minimum point, they don't actually differentiate. So all states are different. But anyway, if you meet the state requirement, and then if your state nomination application is approved, then you will get the visa application invitation. Then you can apply for the visa, and then you will get the permanent visa. So 190, the state nomination visa is the permanent visa. But if you get the 190 visa, which means you already got a state nomination from the certain state, then you must live and work at least 2 years in that state. You cannot move to the other state. And then the other 491 visa is a new visa since 2020. Yeah, 2019, right? And then this visa has many opportunities still. So this is the state nomination based on visa as well. However, this one is regional state nomination. So means you must meet certain requirement for the 491 in regional area. So let's say if you work in the Sydney city, you may not have a chance to apply the 491 visa. But if you work in the Newcastle, Wollongong, or Gold Coast, or whatever, you may have the chance to apply the 491 visa. Again, for the state nomination requirement, it's all different. So that's why it's hard to give you all the explanation. But anyway, you simply understand this 190 and 491, you must have a state nomination approval to apply the visa. However, for the 491, you need less point, means less English skill, still okay, but you must meet regional requirement as well. So that's the difference. And then 491 is not a permanent visa, but we call is provisional visa, which means it is already packaged with a permanent visa. So for the 491, you will have the 5-year visa, and then during 5 years, if you meet working and living criteria for 3 years, that specific regional area, then you can move on to the permanent visa. When you apply the permanent visa, government not gonna check again about your English. So it's packaged. That's why we call the provisional. So you will have the Medicare benefit during the 491 visa, which is very good, actually. And the other one is employer sponsor visa option. So, so let's talk a little bit more about the TSS, which is 482 visa, which is the most popular visa for the vocational course students. So this is employer sponsor visa. So which means even though you are very talented, you have a very high score for the migration point and English skill, you cannot apply for this visa unless you have the employer to give you sponsorship and nomination. For example, chef, if you find the employer in certain restaurant and they are happy to give you sponsorship, and then you can apply for these visas. So that's why this visa is not simple. So your employer must pass the sponsorship application and must approve the nomination. Then finally, you can apply for the visa. And then to apply for this visa, you need at least 2 years work experience. So let's say if you work as a chef, then you have worked in that restaurant for the 3 years, but as a cook, means you can't apply for the TSS visa. Again, TSS visa, you need to have the 2 years work experience at the nominated occupation. But a lot of people misunderstand that the experience always counted from your qualification finish, but actually not. Even though during your study, if you work as a chef, then still you can count. So for example, then during the graduation visa will be the 1.5 year. Then you cannot meet the 2 years experience to apply the TSS visa, right? But if you using the bridging visa until the visa grant, then you can still claim that one. Also, during your diploma or certificate 4-course study, if you work as a chef, you can still use that one. But it is under the student visa condition, so you may have the 20 hour. So you must have the full-time equivalent 2 years experience, which means if you work 6 months as under the student visa condition, then only 3 months the work experience you can claim. But anyway, good to use because during your student visa, you can still work and then you can use that one to meet the TSS requirement. So this TSS visa is a temporary visa. So this visa will give you the 4 years visa duration. And then if you work as a work under that employer for additional 3 years, then you can move to the permanent visa. So this permanent visa name is ENS, Employer Nomination Scheme, 186. So I'm now talking about the 3 occupations: chef, mechanic, and carpenter. So that's why I'm saying that the visa duration is 4 years, and then you can move to the permanent visa. But if your nominated occupation, your occupation is under the short-term occupation list, which is cook, restaurant manager, retail manager, those occupations still can apply the TSS visa, but this is only 2 years, and then also cannot move on to the permanent visa. So that's the difference. So that's why your occupation is really important. Your occupation must be under the medium and long-term occupation list, which is chef, okay, mechanic, okay, carpenter, okay, painter, okay. Yeah, most of the vocational course, yeah, you can still go on to the permanent visa through the TSS.
We have a question now. To meet the TSS requirement for 2 years, does the experience needs to be with the same employer?
No, you need to work in the any employer. I mean, but important thing is the prove your experience is your responsibility. So if you work as a restaurant A, let's say restaurant A, you must get the reference letter before you leave the company. So the kind of employment certificate, like Mr. Namoki worked as a chef from January 2019 to the February 2020. Something like that. You must get the letter from that employer, also provide the payslip. Of course, you have a payslip, so it's easy, but reference letter is important. So you try to get the reference letter. And then again, so you don't need to work under the same employer. You can work whatever employer, but the duration of the employment must be full-time equivalent to 2 years. Then you can apply for the TSS visa. And then, yeah, that the 186 employer nominated sponsor visa, as I mentioned again, once you complete the TSS visa for 3 years under the same employer, then you can move on to the ENS permanent visa. In that process, we called ENS TRT stream, transitional stream. But for the 186 employer nominated sponsor visa has another stream, which is a direct entry stream, which require you to have valid skill assessment. So when you apply the 186 through the TSS visa, you don't need skill assessment because you already proved you worked the 3 years at the chef level under the TSS visa. However, if you want to apply the employer sponsor visa directly, which is a PR, then you require the 3 years experience under any visa but you must prove the skill assessment. That's the difference. Okay, and then the other last one is a new employer sponsor visa, which is a regional based 494 visa. This is the similar visa with the 491. It is also packaged visa with 191 permanent visa. So this 494 visa also requires 3 years. Then a lot of people ask, then this 494 visa requires 3 years experience. Then how come this is easier visa? But work experience, I understand it's a little bit strict and requires 3 years. But think about the occupation. If you work as a restaurant manager or child care center worker, like a group leader, you cannot apply any visa. I talk about 189, 190, 491, 186, 482, all the visa, you cannot apply because those occupation is under the short term or under the ROL, regional occupation list. But for the 494, the occupation list is very wide, open for a lot of the occupation. And then this 3 years experience does not always require you to make it in Australia. So if you have a certain experience in your home country and come to Australia, and then maybe with a certain visa, if you meet the 3 years experience, then the employer in regional area happy to sponsor you, then you can still apply for the 494. So that's a little bit different things. Yeah, the experience requirement is quite high, but give more opportunity for the more occupation. So it is good. In this slide that I mainly focus one more time about the 491 visa because a lot of students ask about these visas because it's quite attractive for the international students, and still a lot of students are getting the visa through this 491 new visas. So again, this 491 visa is a part of the skilled visa here, and then it is temporary visa, but can apply for the permanent visa after 3 years. But during that 3 years, they don't require to improve English. They just work and living in regional area. Then move on to the permanent visa. And then during that 3 years, the applicants and the family member will get the Medicare benefit from the Australian government. So that's why this is really good visa. It's a temporary visa, but I can say it's a kind of permanent visa as well. And then this visa requirement is quite less than other visas. So compared to the 190, the 190 require very high point. But 491 have a more occupation and also has a less requirement. So all the skilled visa, the minimum point is 65. But if you get the state nomination for the 491, the state nomination will give you the extra 15 point, which means you just require the 50 point. Then you don't need to even sometimes have the IELTS 7.0. I know if the competition becomes strong, maybe point will be increased. But at this stage, many occupations still get the invitation with the minimum English requirement, which is 6.0, which is good for the students in vocational area because they have many difficulties to have a higher English point. And then again, the TRA, it takes 1 year to complete the job ready program, skill assessment. So that 1 year experience automatically give you the 1 year Australia experience and additional 5 points. So you will meet most of all the requirements. So basically the difference is 491 state nomination, you have to work and live in the regional area of that state. So that's why I'm pretty sure if you plan to move and relocate to the regional area, and then if you start work and then taking the skill assessment in there, at the time of the finish the skill assessment, you definitely meet the 491 requirement as well. So now you can simply make a strategy to make your future plan. So if you are in big city, that's fine, but you have to think of when you gonna move on. If your student visa is expire soon, then you're gonna apply for the graduation visa, then maybe once the course is complete and time to move on. Or if you have a really good employer, they are happy to sponsor you and you are really good relation and you already experienced them, they are really good employer, then you don't need to move and you don't need to think about the skill assessment because the TSS visa only required 2 years experience. Then what you can do is now you have to check, oh, I'm working as a chef, I'm working as a mechanic, I'm working as a carpenter or not. If I'm not, then ask your employer, can I promote? Then you start work at that nominated occupation level and then try to extend your, try to collect getting your experience during your student visa and then bridging visa and then graduation visa 1.5. So you meet the 2 years experience, you can apply for the TSS visa. Then you don't need to skill assess. But if you take a skill assess, you will prepare the TSS visa, 491 visa, 190 visa, 189 visa, later ENS direct entry visa. So that's why you will, with one skill assessment, you will have extra 4 more visa options. But it doesn't guarantee anything, but at least you will have a more visa options later on. So that's why these days a lot of students, because the situation is very uncertain, so that's why they will have a more opportunity and visa options. So here that I summarize 2 years study and then graduation visa, complete the skill assess and many visas. But again, before you start one, you must draw this one first and check. If you work a mechanic, whether Queensland giving you the state nomination for the 491 or 190 or New South Wales, everything you compare, then you decide the location of your study. Or study anywhere is fine, but at the time of the graduation visa application, you must decide whether you're gonna move on there or that's okay, my employer definitely give the sponsorship, forget about the skill assessment because skill assessment is around 3,000 cost. So like this, you must make a certain plan. Then you're not gonna miss out any important stage, and then you will follow the planned track, and then you get the always update from like our team, and then you get updated, and even though something changed, you can shift your plan. Very well. Okay, this is everything from my side. So maybe if you have any question, just let me know, then I can give you the answer story.
Question today.
So if even though you are not having a question now, but if you have a question later on, please contact our team. Then they will provide some answers, or they will pass that question to me. Then I can also answer for you as well. All right. Thanks so much. Have a nice day. Thank you.